You are live. Please unmute.
Unmuting the microphones.
Good evening and welcome. Let us stand for the pledge in a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please unmute.
Thank you.
Kramer,
Oh, I'm here.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Here.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Present.
Chairman Russell,
Here.
Commissioner Ross,
Present.
Commissioner Allgaier,
Here.
Commissioner Lautner. Present. All present.
Thank you. Well, we now have some minutes to approve. Do you have a motion?
I will move that we approve minutes from committee of the whole Monday, September 26, 2022. Executive session Tuesday, July 11th, 2023. Executive session Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. And committee of the whole Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. Support.
Any discussion? All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 7-0. Thank you. We now have a proposed agenda before us. Are there any late additions, deletions, or changes? Yes.
I would like to request that we remove item number 8 from the consent agenda. And put it down after number 10, maybe.
Okay, so we can put that right after the district court.
And I would also like to request that the items number 13A, that the 1 and 2 be reversed in order, that the lease agreement be discussed prior to the construction.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Yes, Commissioner Lautner.
I was going to request that item 13 just be discussion for this evening. Based on the fact that we just got that contract last evening. And we haven't had a chance even really to, I think we can discuss it tonight. I think that, it's a great opportunity for some discussion because I think there needs to be some changes in it personally.
So when you say 13, there's A, B, and C.
Well, I really don't think we should.
13A,
The lease agreement we're talking about.
Yes, I'm talking about the lease agreement, so I really don't know if we want to move forward with the other two until we have at least, some discussion on the lease agreement. So I think discussion tonight, I don't think we're anywhere near ready for action on that.
Anything else? Okay, all those in support of the agenda is amended. Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Oga.
No.
Let me say again, all those in support of the motion to approve the agenda is amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. Thank you. We now are at our first public comment. Thank you for the public for coming this evening. The first public comment session is limited to 3 minutes per person, and we appreciate your thoughts. And we would ask you, if you wanted to have public comment, to raise your hand. We'll recognize you and then come forward at the table and state your name, please. Yes.
Hello, my name is Gary Cosette, and I live on 4344 Burdickville Road in Maple City. Gwen is our commissioner geographically. And first of all, I want to thank you for passing the septic ordinance because for two reasons. One, it's a protection for buyers who move to this area. We have a neighbor who had to replace a septic tank and it cost him unexpected money. And by making it mandatory, that means no one will have those unexpected costs. Or at least if they do, they'll be able to negotiate with a seller to come to some kind of conclusion. It's not something that's hidden. So, and the second reason is protecting our groundwaters, which is so vital to all of us, as you know. So thank you for passing that. Second, I speak in support of the Clean Energy Task Force that's being proposed. I think it is wonderful. It's a perfect time to be doing this because of all the federal legislation that passed for clean energy. And Michigan is well positioned and interested in accessing the funding that's available. So there's funding that's available, and Leelanau can place itself in a position to maximize its benefits through having a commission like this that thinks all this stuff through and can then apply properly. So I'm very excited about this as a way to help confront climate change. This is a long-term effort. So thank you for, I hope this proposed task force will pass and be successful over the next 12 months, I guess it is. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to make public comment this evening? Thank you for coming. We will have a second public comment opportunity at the end of our meeting. We are now down to on our agenda to commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments? You can tell we've had 3 meetings today. No commissioner comments. We're down to administrator update.
Well, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to kind of give the board a quick update that you have received an email already in regards to the budget work session dates. So you should have that in your emails. I do want to rifle through a couple items that were action items from our last meeting and kind of give you an update on those. In regards to about 15 tasks, in regards to the dam authority, there is a meeting tomorrow with the dam authority to discuss processes and water flow. And so that is underway. In terms of a report, average daily miles were requested for senior services and building and safety. So to let you know, the outcome is senior services. The average daily mileage is 20 miles per day. And for the building safety department is between 120 to 150 miles a day. So there's requested that. In regards to the presentation that we had from Enterprise Fleet, Sean, our finance director, has reached out to Chris to specifically ask for county references to speak to cost analysis, historical basis, and overall satisfaction. So this request is in process, and we should probably have something back for you at the September meeting. In terms of providing an update for the credit card policy, that is an item that is on the agenda this evening for your review, so that will be discussed shortly. In terms of the treasurer to provide funding recommendations for the boat purchase, which you'll have in front of you shortly, those discussions are taking place. Discussion with the finance director and the treasurer, and I believe the finance director is ready to address that in our questions. In terms of regarding reformation of the county EDC, there was a request to discuss with the land bank. I will tell you that the land bank met this morning, and they're researching some other potential options with regards to an EDC. So more information to come on that as well. Just want to give an update on that. The NMCAA public notice grant closeout is scheduled for September 19th. That has been scheduled as requested. the public request for interest for new communities to be appointed, or sorry, new committees to be appointed by the BOC, such as the one we just heard of in terms of public comment. That will all be reviewed as part of the committee assignment discussion that happens in October, so that process is underway. In terms of the bid policy, the outcome after discussion with the clerk's office and a review of the budget rules, there is no formal process policy other than budget rules, which currently state that anything over $10,000 would need to be bid. So just a clarification on that, when we would die. Reviewing contractual agreements with Safety Net, that is underway, that process in terms of looking at that contract, so more to come in September as well. The administrator bring forward a letter from the health department with documentation that was part of a presentation that was sent out yesterday in a packet to the board for your discussion later in the board meeting as well. The 4012 discussion regarding speed limit and safety concerns on M22. I spoke with the road commission manager, the county sheriff, and I have yet to connect on this, and a meeting with the tribal manager is set next week. So to coordinate all of those discussions to talk about how the county could potentially be involved in helping to move that forward along with our representative, Betsy Covia. District 6 and 7 of the broadband recommendations. Ty and Patricia had a newsletter that was distributed yesterday, so hopefully all of you received it. That's been made public and that potentially will be in the news here shortly. Update boards and commissions. We already talked about that in terms of appointments. The reconciliation bill for the pool for corrections, Kathy sent that request out to everyone. So I think those were the 12, 15 action items that I had from the last meeting.
So I have a question about the letter. I got the lift update. It did not address 6 and
It
7.
did not, it was just a lift up.
Update, I'm sorry, newsletter update.
So a correction would be, was there something else that addressed 6 and 7?
No, my bad. It was just
Okay.
speaking to the
Yeah,
transition
okay.
on the west side of the lake.
I was hoping I missed something.
Unfortunately, no. I do want to also mention, after having a brief conversation with the chairman, I do want to let the board know that the county received notification from the IRS regarding a late filing that happened in 2021. It is currently being worked on in terms of the clerk's office. This was from 2021. So it is an issue that we have 45 days to respond. We're in process on that. So we will keep the board informed as soon as that documentation is sent out. That is all I have under administrator's report.
Thank you. We are now down to our agenda, to the consent agenda items. Do I have a motion?
I would move to approve the consent agenda items as modified.
Support.
All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. Before we move on, the consent agenda are those items that we talked about at last week's meeting and all agreed on our recommendation and potential decision. So they were on that agenda as one consent agenda item. Commissioners could, any one of them could have taken one of those items off for further discussion if they wish to do so. So thank you. We're now down to action item number 10. Deb?
Well, I'd like to welcome Judge Cooney is with us today, as well as Gwen, the court administrator, to address the staffing level that was brought up at last week's meeting, but there was not an availability for a representative to be here, so welcome you both to speak to this issue.
All right, good evening, Bob Cooney, Chief Judge for the 86th District Court, and our Administrator Gwen Taylor. You may not have met Gwen before. She just took over for Dawn Wagner, who resigned back in July. So anyhow, the court is requesting 2 full-time probation officers. The total amount that represents for Leelanau County is a little over $5,000 this year, about $17,000 for a full year. We have an estimated $260,000 in our budget that is expected to be left over and unspent this year. That's between the 3 counties, Grand Traverse, Anscherman, Leelanau. And so We have the money for this year. We have the money for next year, most likely. And Grand Traverse and Antrim County have already approved this budget measure. It represented about 24,000 additional dollars for Antrim County and 111,000 for Grand Traverse County. For those of commissioners who aren't familiar with our agreement between the three counties, it's based on caseload, how much each county pays. And we revisit that, I think, on an annual basis.
Yes.
So anyhow, I don't know how to overstate the problem. We have a crisis with the number of cases that each of our probation officers is dealing with. The number has essentially doubled since we made some drastic cuts to our staff a few years back. Probation officers are unable to properly manage their cases. Emails and phone calls are going unanswered from their clients who are on probation and from others. Pre-sentence reports that should take a couple of weeks to prepare are now taking 4 to 6 weeks, and we're having to schedule sentencings out way further than we would like to. Probation violations are sometimes stacking up because we can't get to them, and before you know it, it doesn't even make sense to deal with the probation violation anymore. Our probation officers, I have to say, they're a very good group of people, a lot of experience there. Some of them have been there many years. This is a new phenomenon where they're burned out. They are complaining. We had one of the 3 general probation officers resign partly because of this problem a couple of weeks ago. That's created even more of a crisis, but it's unfair to ask these folks to try to do more. And the bottom line is, I don't think this is how any of you would want to see one of your departments run, where we don't have the staff to properly manage the folks who are on probation. This is a self-inflicted wound. In order to be fiscally responsible, because of the passage of the Jail Reduction Act back in 2021, we predicted that there would be many fewer cases placed on probation. That was a bad calculation. As it turns out, we have had a very slight reduction in the number of cases, but not enough to justify the cuts that we made. We cut 1.5 compliance officers. We cut approximately 2.8 full-time employed probation staff. We quickly added one back, realizing we'd cut too deep in 2021, still toward the end of the year. And I've been to this board a couple of other times on other matters and indicated that we would be asking to add a probation officer back. We're coming to you before the new budget year because we just can't go on this way. And so I thought we were going to be asking for 1 additional probation officer. When we looked at the numbers, even by adding 2 probation officers, we will still be well above where we were at back in 2021, roughly 110 cases per general probation officer, not the treatment courts. And now we're looking at 210 when we pulled the numbers for July. And those numbers tend to be leveling off, but still going up. One of the things I'd like to point out is we were not aware, at least the judges were not aware, that the probation officers were actually taken out of our staffing plan. Because generally, if we have the money in our budget, which we do, we could simply add those positions back. But in 2021, that is something that we were not aware of because we didn't know how things were going to shake out with the law. We attempted to add 1 full-time probation officer last year. That was not approved by the Grand Traverse County Board. This year, after we did our presentation a couple weeks ago, they unanimously approved our request. I want to highlight the fact that the court voluntarily made these cuts, again, to be fiscally responsible. And I think when a department does that, if we find out we cut too deeply, I think it would be a mistake anyway for the board to punish us because we were trying to do the right thing financially. The effects of this on county services are public safety is jeopardized because we're not effectively managing the caseload. Rehabilitation is less effective, and that is the purpose of probation. Most of the folks on probation are receiving either mental health or substance use disorder services or anger management services for domestic violence and those types of crimes. I think you could also expect that jail population would grow because if we don't have effective probation, the alternative is jail sentences. So those are some of the major reasons why we need to do this. And I'm asking you again to approve the court's request for 2 full-time probation officers. That still leaves us under the amount of full-time staff that we had previously. And I'm going to turn to Gwen at this point to give you some more numbers.
So as the judge said in July 20 this year, our caseload, average caseload for a general probation officer is 210. Just to give you a historical context, in 2019, prior to the layoffs in the jail task force reform, our average caseload number for general probation officers was 114. And they were writing an average of 15 pre-sentence investigations per month. Now in July, they're writing an average of 27 PSIs per month. So
Thank you. I read your report and I understood everything except what a PSI is.
Yes.
So what is a PSI?
So I can go over that. A PSI is a pre-sentence interview. So that's a report and information that's gathered between the probation officer and the potential probationer that's ordered prior to sentencing so that they gather information about the defendant so the judge can sanction appropriate sentence.
But it's way more than just an interview with the defendant. It includes a complete criminal history, mention of any restitution that's owing. They may talk to the victim of the offense in order to gather more information about that. And it's a complete picture of the crime and the defendant so that we can fashion an appropriate sentence. It's provided to both the prosecutor and the defense counsel so they have an opportunity to review it in advance and comment in case the information is wrong.
And as much knowledge as possible.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner O'Gara?
I don't know if you're done, but I'm ready to make a motion. Did you have more you want to tell us?
Well, as you've noted, you do have our PowerPoint. We've, the judge had talked and summarized much of that information. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have, but I think it's just reiterating what you've already seen and reviewed and.
Thank you. That was very, very thorough. I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the proposed 86 District Court staffing plan change request with funds to come from 101-350-136-801-000. And I was a therapist and I've worked in treatment centers. And yes, we will get the best results with that staff.
That's not.
Been moved and seconded. Are there other
No, it's not part of the
questions?
motion. I'm sorry, I had to stick that in.
Well, these days, I will say our probation officers are more like social workers than the traditional idea of a probation officer because of the issues that we're dealing with.
Thank
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion?
Just thank you for what you do.
Thanks.
Okay, all those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
all of
We
you.
really appreciate your support.
We are now down to item number 8, which was our rules of order and procedure suggested change. The original motion that we approved the other day was to change the order of our agenda to make sure that presenters came before public comment, so that presenters could know when they were to be here and could leave when they had to go. It's been pulled off the agenda. Doug, you want to speak to that?
Sure, I'd like to see if this board would entertain limiting the first public comment segment to items that are associated with the agenda for the day. We all have multiple ways for people to get a hold of us, email, phone calls, people know where we live. In order of making the meeting move along a little more expediently, I think it may be a good idea. And there's still a full public comment at the end of the meeting, 5 minutes on any subject that you wish to talk about. So I would like to make a motion to amend the Connie's original motion to that effect, that public comment prior to the meeting be limited to agenda items.
Support for discussion.
Yeah, I have a question. Is that in addition to moving it after the presenters?
Well, I'm not asking for public comment to be moved. Ty's original move of the presenters will still take place. It's just that the first public comment section.
So it would be moved and limited, is what you're saying?
Yes.
So the original motion was to move it, and now this amendment limits the content of the first public. Commissioner O'Hara.
We've had that request off and on for years. And a caution with that, I get it, it seems to make sense, is that no one knows when our meetings are gonna end. And it's impossible to predict. So if one of our citizens wants to say something that's not on the agenda, they have no way of knowing when to be here. And they may have to sit here for 6 hours. So that's always been the reason we didn't approve that. I do strongly support moving public comment after our presenters, because most of our presenters come from, they run agencies, they run programs. And they have busy days. So it just makes sense to let them do their presentation so they can get back to work and serving us. That's my caution though about your suggestion, is that it really kind of cuts people out.
Now, let's make sure we all have some input into this. Commissioner Lautner?
I just have a question for clarification. Would this be for both meetings or just executive?
I assume that would be for both, but I'm open to discussion on that. I'm just trying to streamline. I do hear your concerns, Commissioner O'Hara, but I think there's so many other ways that we have already that you can receive the public comment.
Maybe it makes more sense.
Yeah, can I finish, Mr. Chairman? Yeah, okay, so we have had some requests for this in the past, and there's been a lot of discussion on it. And I'm willing to give this a try, at least for the executive meeting. I think maybe for the regular meeting, the evening meeting, we could leave it open as it is for the evening meeting, but try it for executive. For Ron, I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to make a change, is to compromise and to ease into something, so we'd be able to test it out, correct? And
see what kind of response we get from our constituents. So I would be open to having it back on the agenda at some point to say, are we okay with it? Yeah. So, I like your idea.
Yeah, well, it will be back on the agenda in January for our annual meeting to review the board rules.
Yeah.
Commissioner O'Dea?
How about if we did it for the public meeting? Because this is a shorter meeting and more people come to the whole meeting. It's the executive that can go 5 or 6 hours and people don't have a clue. And very few, you guys are all loyal, faithful people, you stay, but the executive, it's pretty empty by the time we get. So maybe switch it.
Well, actually, I gave that some thought, and my thought is, when we come into the executive meeting at 9 AM, I'm looking at the packet, we had 212 pages to prepare for the executive meeting. That's before we got to claims and accounts and post audit and anything that was late addition. So I think, I'm just thinking along the line of, if we can keep our minds on the executive meeting. We do all the hard work, all the legwork at the executive. Concentrate on the executive meeting, and that's why I like the idea of trying it with the executive meeting first. The regular meeting, we already have heard it all, and also then that gives, that's more important to have that early public comment, because then that does give the public an opportunity to speak to us if they haven't met us throughout the week before we do vote and ratify.
So is the idea that you'd like to see me amend the motion so that my motion to limit public comment to agenda items only applies to the executive support?
So the full motion is to change the order of the agenda and to limit the public comment at the
Executive to agenda items.
You got that, Madam Clerk? Further discussion, Jamie?
I'm just concerned about, we've, since this board has been a board together, we have already downsized the amount of time that the public can speak. My concern is that this is sometimes, I think, not just for the commission, but for the community as a whole. So when someone has to say something, we want to make sure that they have the platform to say it. I'm kind of torn on this. I understand the need to expedite the process, and sometimes we, with the same message, but I don't know, I'm just nervous.
Jim? I'll speak to it. I'm going to support the motion, and I want to remind the audience that we also take public comment in writing, and would continue to do that. So I will support the motion. Yes.
Just actually, we were going through a lawyer the other day talking about the act of listening and hearing people, and I feel like a lot of things that can be aired that are frustrations from our constituents and our community as a whole, they a lot of times just want to know that they're being heard. So I want to make sure that we take that into consideration, because that's essentially why.
And I have to say, I won't support it because I, for years, was one of you out there. And it's important that you are able to speak.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Motion back to
Motion, yes.
The amendment. Well, are you gonna vote on it?
It's just a motion. He withdrew his motion and restated it.
You did withdraw the first motion and then just made a second, so it wasn't an amendment. All right, then it was a motion by Rex wrote to amend the rules of order and procedure to limit public comment at the executive committee meeting, the first public comment to agenda items only, and as well as move the communications, proclamations, and presentations to follow the approval of the agenda and late additions or deletions. And that portion is for the executive board and the regular session. And that is not verbatim, but that is the understanding of what you're trying to do.
That's important.
Everybody understand the motion? Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Aye.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Alguier,
No.
Commissioner Kramer,
No.
Commissioner Lautner,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
5-2.
Thank you. And we will keep close track of that and evaluate it and see how it works. Urge you to stay for the whole meeting. Thank you very much. We're now down to Human Resources Policy, Board Policies Committee, the whole meeting policy recommendations, late edition request. Darcy?
Well, the first one is just the approval. I'm asking for approval of the policies that you reviewed last week.
It is on page 26. No.
Ty, it's on your green sheet.
Yeah, there's actually.
It's action item
Number
11.
11. These are the things we all went through.
These are the
already,
things that-
fully discussed.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we'll go ahead.
Jessica.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the updates to county policies 2.03 equal employment opportunity policy, which is federal law, 3.03 information technology resources policy, 5.01 travel policy, 5.08 reimbursement policy, and paid medical leave active policy of Michigan law, number to be assigned, and the whistleblowers protection policy, federal law, also to be assigned pending review and approval by corporate counsel.
And just so you know, these have already been vetted through council and they've all been approved by council.
Support.
And moved in second, discussion, yes, ma'am.
The paid medical leave act policy, which was that? Federal.
That's a state,
Also.
that's state law.
Is that where you were changing?
That requires us to allow medical leave time after 90 days.
Okay.
Personal,
Person.
not just medical, personal.
Any other questions? We did review all these on Tuesday. We're ready to vote? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0.
Thank you.
Next, Darcy.
The second request is a letter of agreement between the Teamsters General 214 group and the county. Last month, you approved the reclassification of the resource coordinator for the senior services program to the role of care coordinator. And we also adjusted that or updated that job description. The union has agreed to this. They've signed it. So we just need your approval for the chairman to be able to sign the letter of agreement between the Teamsters and the county. I did pass out a copy because I realized that there was a typo in the rate on the second page. So the one that you got tonight is the correct version.
Commissioner Kramer.
Can I start with the motion out there? I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve and that the chairman be authorized to sign the letter of agreement between Leelanau County and the Teamsters State County and Municipal Workers, Local 214, reclassifying the position of Aging Well Resource Coordinator to Senior Services Care Coordinator and amending the rate of pay for Gail Carlson. Support.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes.
I said, well, I read through this, but this is just formalizing what we've already done
Yes.
in association and make sure the Teamsters.
Yes.
No new information, just what we've already done.
Correct.
Ready to vote? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 7-0.
Aye, no. You didn't ask for nays.
I thought I saw your mouth move. I'm sorry. Could I ask for the support of all those in favor of the motion say aye?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you, and I apologize.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are now down to the Renewable Energy Exploratory Group. Gwen?
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners create the Leelanau County Energy Futures Task Force that will identify opportunities and facilitate implementation of energy efficiency and renewable energy within our county. Any projects that involve county expenditures or are in county facilities must have board approval. The membership will be composed of representatives from county energy providers, community organizations, business, agribusiness, and interested residents for a total of 12 members. The Energy Futures Task Force will meet for 12 months, at which time a report will be presented to the board. Support.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes.
I just have a question. We can form this though before October, right? The discussion about, so we can get the task force going ASAP.
We have to appoint it, and the board has to appoint it, so we could do that at our September meeting.
It's,
Commissioner Lauder?
so there is a process. I assume you're going to put notice in the paper, looking for applicants, and they allow them, you're just going to allow a couple of weeks then for applicants, and then they'll come back to us in September. Is that your intent?
That's the plan.
I think we probably need more time than.
We would ask Laurel to use the same process that she does for all other committee announcements.
September or October, or the last day for accepting applications is the last Friday in October. And at that point, we start compiling.
But that's for the other committees, and we don't make those appointments till January. So we will do our best to have this ready for September. If we're not there yet, it may lag.
We'll just have to make sure that we meet the posting requirements. for the newsletter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We work on that.
Any other questions or discussion?
I have nothing further than what I had Tuesday. I know we have one energy provider in the county that is already on top of all of this and has many opportunities available already. We'd be happy to talk to any of their members whatsoever on this. So.
Thank you. Ready to vote?
Oh, I just wanted to follow up something. Having, I believe, a government entity overseeing this will provide us more opportunities for grant funding in different directions. So this is, it's great that Cherryland and all of these energy companies are working on those projects, and we need all of it, but this provides different avenues.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. Thank you. We are now down to item 13, and Mr. Johnson is here. Thank you for coming, Mr. Johnson. And turn it over to you, Deb.
So what's being passed around right now is one of the things I was requested to do is to receive a letter from the Benzie Leelanau District Health Department in terms of their intent for the partnership that the board is considering. So this is a letter that was received. You can see August 9th in regards to the request. Speaks to that, and then the documentation that you have is also for consideration, so I just want to make sure that the board had that before we had discussion.
we're discussing 13A double I right now.
Right.
All right. Just real quick.
I'm sorry, I can't hear what's being said.
Yeah, me neither.
So we're discussing 13A double I right now. That was for the amended agenda.
Okay.
Lease agreement is in, on page 30 of the board mini packet that Laurel submitted to us earlier this week. Take a minute to find that as you.
We got it just virtually, correct?
Yes.
So the lease agreement starts on page 33.
And this has been reviewed by council.
It has been and has not been fully reviewed by the health department's council, so there is still a process that needs to take place.
And we did amend our agenda to indicate that this was for discussion tonight. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Yes, that's for Commissioner Lover.
Please take a minute and take a look at that lease and let's have some discussion about it. I will tell you that I reached out to our administrator today on the rental cost with a question about what we did for the soil conservation district. I don't know if you were able to find out anything on that.
Well, the soil and conservation district was slightly different from the standpoint that we, that is a mandated service by the county to have a soil and conservation district. So from that perspective, the partnership that was established with them was based on a fee structure that the county paid soil and conservation. And so there was a, if I believe correctly, Michelle, you may have to add on, so I think there was a reduction in the amount of payment to the soil and conservation for that lease, for that agreement as part of that partnership. So that is the single difference, I think, this from the standpoint that it is not a mandated service. The lease agreement as it's put together was based on conversation that if the project cost was, upward of $500,000, then there would be a cost sharing, which would then be utilized to offset the payment or rent payment for a period of 15 years. Those are all items that the board has the opportunity to have discussion about. Now that the cost has changed, that could be a viable discussion. I only give you options. I'm not making recommendations, so please understand. I'm just pointing those items out to you.
Commissioner Lott or the Commissioner Alder?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have a lot of concerns, and now that it does explain perhaps what happened, and that's where I was going to go. So my first question is in the first whereas. This talks about facilities which provide public health services. And I've always understood there to be a difference between public health services and environmental health services, and this is supposed to be environmental health services. And I know we don't want public health services down there. So I think that's one change that has to be made. It talks, and I'm going to try to find it, it talked a little bit about I think it's in the cost sharing, but it speaks only to, I believe, maintenance and cleaning. Correct. When it came to the cost allocation portion. So I guess the questions I had was, all right, so what is rent worth, right? So if this project is coming in way below where we said it was, we thought it would be, when we thought it was going to be way up around $500,000 or $600,000, 15 years might have made sense if we were getting all of our cost allocation. But now it's coming so much lower. I don't think that we should lock ourselves into 15 years, certainly not for that price. So I think we should consider some other things, such as paying it all up front, if we possibly could, if we were going to proceed with this project, and charging a rent instead. Which brings me to, what is rent worth in this county, in this building? And I know we can get some figures, because we were offered quite a bit some years ago by, they had thrown a number out from Secretary of State. And we were not super receptive to that, based on a lot of different things, some of it being just the wear and tear on this building itself with that much footwear on, with our elevator and everything else. So that did not proceed forward. So that's it. What is rent worth? And I think we really need to look at what rent is worth and put pen to paper on how many years that would be out, or just the cost of the renovation. That is a concern. Like I said, the cost allocation, it needs to be the same, I think, throughout, for what cleaning is, what the square footage, the maintenance, I think it doesn't include telephone, computer hookup, all of that. It all needs to be the same as we charge our other offices, because it's gonna be a lot on our building. And then we still, well, I guess some other concerns, but that's as far as just the lease goes. Those were my concerns.
Commissioner O'Gara.
I'm very pleased that, a couple of things. One, that we have an opportunity to complete our building. It's an absolutely beautiful space down there, and it's being used to store bikes. I also want to comment that I came into the building yesterday and a gentleman walked out the door kind of looking around like, where he said, "Is environmental health here somewhere? I need a well permit." I said, "Next year." But now you have to go down the road. So I believe this will be a good service to our citizens who can come here to Conservation District, get a well permit, and do construction codes. And we are all in this, they are all in the same place. So I do believe this serves our citizens. When you bring up the 15 years versus, where could we get feedback or information on that? Because the price has changed. I mean, we're grateful that the cost has come down considerably to finish our building and to serve our citizens better. So I will support this. We've been working on it for 2 years.
So Commissioner Loner already covered some of my things, but speaking directly to your question, Commissioner Ogar, I did a search on a couple of real estate things. Can only find one commercial building that's ready to be leased in Leelanau County, and it's $20 a square foot, triple net. That's pretty typical from what I know, even in the other stuff. So if I were to take 2,720 square feet times $20 a square foot, it's around $55,000 a year. If I take the contribution that the health department is making and divide it by 15 years, it comes to $11,800 a year. So right now, we would be charging them about 20% of market rate from the single property I could find, but that rate doesn't seem that far out of line to me. So I have concerns about the way this works. I echo Commissioner Longman's concerns with the the costs, I think we need to revisit either the term or some sort of other thing so that we can have a more equitable agreement there. Also echoing some of our concerns. I mean, I know that once we build out the building, our insurance rates will go up because we have more property to insure. And that's not something mentioned in the cost sharing agreement. I assume we're giving them parking spaces out here, and there'll need to be snow removal that's associated with those and parking lot maintenance. So I found several holes in the agreement that I thought that did not provide adequate cost sharing. And I think we really got to look at the, I'm not opposed fully to the whole project going forward, but I think right now it just looks like we're giving it away. I think we need to review based on those numbers where we're at and see what works. We have to, I mean, maybe it's a 5 years, it still is a bargain. A rent release for 5 years is still like $35,000 a year, which is still even far less than market. You know, so anyway, I think there's having just seen this lease late last night and seen the terms that I have great caution on moving forward until we get some of this, not against the project in general, but some of these terms.
And
Commissioner Kramer.
I too just naively ran the numbers, and I'm kind of in line with Melinda and Doug. We need to look at some more options. I think is a low cost housing option, it'd be great.
Right.
That's
This actually is, like, get you down below household rent.
Commissioner Russ.
We've been talking with the health department for months, I mean, way before this commission was seated, 2 years. 2 years. Do we have any agreement with them that we would promise something that we can't deliver, or no?
We don't currently have an agreement. We obviously have the intent to want to work together on this, but there's no formal agreement at this point. So I think there are options for discussion. I think, that having representation here tonight, I think that's a fair statement that there would be options to revisit this.
And I do want to give Eric a chance to come to the table if you'd like, Eric. Maybe respond to some of what you've heard and ask Eric directly some questions. Gwen.
And can I just make a quick comment? I think in this discussion, we have to remember, this is not just any old company we're renting space to. This is our Board of Health that serves our citizens, and our tax dollar funds this. So if we would propose a rent that was onerous, they would need more, they would deliver fewer services to our citizens. So we can't compare it to a retail rent situation. But anyways, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Eric. You've heard some of the comments. You have something you want to say?
Well, obviously, it's a partnership, and we've been working on this for 2 years at the invite actually of a commissioner 2 years ago, and it's been a very long process trying to figure out where to go and how to get to this point to get an actual bid amount that seemed reasonable. So that's where we're at. I think the discussion with the 15-year, that was what we talked about 10 months ago. We didn't have a number in our mind. It was just it should be about this much. I know we are planning on paying operational costs just like every other tenant in this building. I'm assuming it covers snow plowing, electrical, all of those different things that every tenant in here actually pays as part of our monthly payment, or however it's done for every other agency here. The aspect of the rent or lack of rent was just because we were covering half the cost of construction. At that time, we didn't know what the actual number would be. Obviously, we want to be good partners here. And if you have suggestions as to what you think would be fair and equitable, we'd listen to that. And we would talk about it and discuss it and see what we could do. I know that At the moment, just due to funding streams the last few years, we have the money that's capable of paying for half the construction costs now. I can't tell you that would be the case down the road, sort of thing. So our funding goes up and down depending on the whim of state government on occasion. So, but we want to be good partners. We think it would be an excellent opportunity for our services, building, plumbing, all of those, soil erosion, to all be under one roof and to be a one-stop shopping, and for us to invite building department down so we can have discussions. We can be right here and have these meetings really quickly, and for you to also have access to us a little easier. So.
Questions or comments for
Mine's for Deb. Can we get some sort of formal document about the other tenants and what they're paying, so we can at least like?
It would be a cost application,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that that's easy to get together. I think we've already had that compiled, so it's based on square footage, so it would be, you know, based on those factors, is what the payment structure would be.
And keeping in mind, the other one that you're speaking of is actually a service we are compelled by law to provide, right?
Correct.
So there's a slight difference there. And I don't disagree with Commissioner Valgar that maybe it doesn't need to be at full market rate, but at the rate we're at, it's just 20% of market rate. Seems like a pretty good deal.
In 15 years from now.
Yeah, that'll keep going up.
Yeah.
It'll keep getting a much better deal.
Commissioner Butler?
That made my point with the future of our health department. And I honestly believe that by moving environmental health into the basin of this building is not going to solve your problems down the road, because the health department needs a home down the road. And I firmly believe personal health and environmental health ought to be together because you're one entity. So Leelanau County is not responsible for the health department. We provide a health department. The health department is a health department. So the other discussions we haven't had is, yes, there are bikes in that space down there. There's bikes and kayaks and there's exercise equipment, and there's a lot of things down there. So if they're not going to be there, where are they going to be? So we're probably talking about building a pole barn. So there's that cost that we haven't even discussed yet. I know that the courts who own all that equipment are not thrilled with their stuff going out to a pole barn. They don't want to have to go out there to access their stuff. And that's just from conversations with some of the court employees that use that. So they don't want to see it go. You know, there's the discussion of number one, I just want to say too, yeah, 15 years is too far out for everyone. We don't know if we're going to need that space in 5, 7, 10 years. That's what that space was for expansion of county government should be needed in the future. Original plans didn't even have a basement. I actually insisted on basement because this is the cheapest level you can build. And you never know if you're going to need it. As far as one-stop shopping, we've heard that a lot in the past. You know, we've had people walk in looking for a Secretary of State's office, and you have to tell them, oh, no, that's down in Southern State, that's not here. We've had people walking in for our health department. We had that a lot after we built this building. And we said, explain to them where we used to have sign up the site where the health department was. So, you know, we can't be one stop everything. We can't. Yes, I can go to soil erosion and get what I need. I can go to buildings and look for my permits, but I can't get my land use permits there. It doesn't serve my FSA services there. So it just is a fact of the matter that we're going to go to different places to get the different services we need in county government and in government in general. So those are the last few comments.
Commissioner Butler?
So what could be the steps we take to finalize this? the Board of Health has to approve whatever we do. We don't want to keep dragging this out. It truly has been 2 years. I think corporate counsel has to review the contract. We make it 12 years.
I mean, 7, 5.
I hear 4. We have an opportunity here and we could meet a need of our citizens. What's a reasonable compromise? And because this was moved to discussion, I understand I would assume that we cannot make the final until September. So we come back in September with a final offer.
This is here just for discussion tonight.
Right.
And I heard Eric say that he wanted to work with Deb. We have to share our concerns. Speaking just for me, and I'm a member of the health board as well, I want this to happen, but I want it to happen responsibly.
Yes.
And so I have some concerns about the lease agreement, but I would welcome the health department downstairs. I think it makes sense, and I want us to go to reach an agreement. But I think we have to see what the two organizations can bring forward to this group at next month's meeting.
Yeah, the good news is we have much lower price than we anticipated.
I apologize for not knowing this. I'm not sure if you either, but I'm not certain, I don't know if Laurel, if you know, what the timeline is on that bid requirement. Okay, so I just want to make sure it's not 30 days, there's an opportunity. So we'll communicate back to the board, and if the board is comfortable with that, we'll start discussions and look up some of these information about cost allocation, add that to the discussion.
Other questions or comments to make sure that Eric and Deb hear what we're thinking?
Yeah, no, I just think, taking another look at it, and I would love for you guys to be here. I want to make sure that the county is being taken care of in the way that is fair and equitable for everyone involved.
I would echo Commissioner Waltner's 7 to 5 year suggestion.
How about if
I think it's been beat up enough and should have enough ideas and but the board feels, again, revisit or bring it back to the board. But
One last. Yes, Whit.
Well, when Commissioner O'Rourke said that, we could figure out what it would have been had each of us had to kick in $250 and figure out what that would be with the revised price. Whatever, we'll figure this out.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Be back at this table next month, I'm sure.
We just like to see.
Now we have item 13A I, and I suspect we ought to put that on hold until we bring back lease agreement to decide whether we can reach an agreement.
I agree. I just have one comment on that we should be discussing a owner's representative of a qualified person. Our luck with construction projects and getting what we paid for has not been very optimal. I wouldn't, whatever happens, if we got to that point, I would not feel comfortable about moving forward without someone who will strictly be looking after the interests of Leelanau County and make sure they get what they paid for.
Everybody comfortable with leaving it there for now then and bring these two items back next month? Thank you.
Actually, it would be 3 items, because A was the actual acceptance of the bid.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes, thank you. We're now down to 13B, to review the county board credit card policy. Is that going to be Sean or you? Or?
I'll just address it. It's item page 41 in your packet. So this was just to update the credit card policy to prepare for any future discussion about credit card allocations or credit card proceedings. So just want to let you know that now this has been just adjusted to address the finance director. I don't think there were any other specific, so that's the only change, was just put that under finance.
Thank you. We don't need any action, so
I
think there's a
do,
motion.
probably have a motion 13B. Oh, I'm not sure.
it said no proposed action.
Just review.
So we're looking for a motion though to approve.
Oh, that's it. Is this one we just got last night? It's in that packet we just received yesterday. Is there any problem with putting it off? Is there any hurry on that
There's
one?
no change other than the finance director.
Well, we just have a review of it on the agenda.
We accepted a motion earlier to establish a credit card in the sheriff's office, so this was just to clean that up. So that was part of the consent agenda, so that's the rationale for putting this forward, is just so we have a clean policy, because that was one of the things that the board had discussed at last Tuesday's meeting.
Motion to approve Leelanau County Board Policy 7.12, which is the credit card policy.
Support.
Any discussion? Doug?
I just have a question, and it's just, cement.
Second that.
I see that the administrator and finance are in there, and clerk has been removed because of the new permit. I'm just curious why the treasurer is still there. Is that what should be there? Is that, it would seem like it just falls to you guys.
And that's fine. I think it was just because it was the same.
Yeah.
It was just the switching of the, to represent finance, but I don't think that there's a specific need to have.
Just a
The only thing
question.
is the account. I don't know if Sean or Kathy, if you can speak to the account runs through the treasurer. No, okay. No. So if somebody wants to amend to remove that.
What do you guys, do you have a position on that, or?
Don't. I actually, I'm indifferent. I don't use the treasurer's office in any way without the credit card payment.
So there just would be burdensome to have it as a part of the process, right?
Do you have to have him on as an elected official overseeing the credit card? No. But as our highest financial department head, he doesn't have to be on it.
Not when you created a finance director.
He's higher than John.
So we've got a motion on the floor. You want to do a friendly amendment to that, Jim, and just approve the policy as stated, but delete the treasurer?
Sure.
I think you didn't want to do that. So your original motion then is to approve the policy that it is, and it's been moved and seconded. Anybody want to amend that?
I will make an amendment to that motion, that would remove the treasurer language from the credit card policy.
I'll support my amended motion.
So it's been moved and seconded, and then there's an amendment. Any further discussion? Discussion on the amendment? Okay, first, we will vote on the amendment, and we'll do that by voice vote. All those in support of that amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we will vote on the motion, and would you read the motion, Michelle?
It'll be, I didn't have a motion, but it's a motion to approve policy number 7.12 as amended with the additional removal of the treasurer.
Any question or discussion? All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a credit card policy 7-0. Thank you. Now looking for a motion to go into closed session. If somebody wants to make it.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners enter into closed session to review a written attorney-client privilege legal opinion from civil counsel per MCL 15.268H.
Support.
With no objection, I'd like to have the clerk and the administrator join us in that session with our attorney. I've spoken to the attorney about that. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Have a
Roll
call.
It is a roll
Have a
call.
roll call.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Wagner,
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you for coming tonight. We will reconvene and we will have public comment after the meeting. I would guess we'd be in there 20 minutes or so, but I'm not sure. Thank you.
please unmute.
That's cool.
I had a Leelanau officer pick it up.
Clerk? We're waiting for the clerk.
Yeah.
We didn't think you'd been waiting long enough, Bill.
That's okay. I sat in the easy chair about half the time, so.
As soon as we all get back, someone's in the bathroom.
Yeah.
You did great
Thank you, sir. I sure appreciate that.
pretty fast.
It's coming right up. Just a second. We have to wait for us. Commissioner Wilder.
We gotta hold that in the restroom, I think.
You said I answered that question in the email. Okay.
Send it to the board, right? Okay. The day after.
Yeah. Right away.
Do it, sure.
Can you read that?
Sure.
No, we're not gonna do that yet. We gotta make a motion, get back in open session.
I'm waiting for.
I would move that we get back in open session.
Commissioner Olga?
Which one do you want?
She made the motion to resume open session. Was there support?
Support.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved.
Now,
Commissioner,
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners accept the recommendation of legal counsel, and authorize the board chair to respond to the agreement in writing.
Support.
move and second, any discussion?
This board chair.
It was Rex who supported it. Who supported
All those in
it?
support of, all those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. We're now down to review of financials. Any questions for Sean or Kathy?
We just have a couple of amendments and transfers came to us before. Is there anything you wanted to?
I don't know.
It's a vote.
I don't know if we're that far. I think we're on review of financials.
Oh, we got, okay, I'm ready to go. Okay. I didn't have any questions on the late.
Yeah, there was late, so.
Anybody else?
No, I suppose we should be glad we're finally, the vote is finally happening, but every year we've been able to save that money and then put it back in the budget.
Thank you. Now we're at committee reports, recommendations, and resolutions. Anything? Special requests. We're now at the agenda for public comment. We have our second public comment. And Bill has something you want us to hand out here. Mr. Wagner?
Sorry.
I'll get it, I'll get it. Not that I have the best balance. but- Do you want
Maybe you
these?
can use it to get
Yeah,
back.
just leave it in service.
I'll use it.
You're good.
Do a slide.
Yeah. I just laid them down here, but thank you very much. Right there. Sorry. Right there. There. Hi, Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. And this handout, I'd like to comment on this. I'm looking at the cast vote records and 2010 census in Edward Solomon, 3 different areas, numbers 1, 2, and 3, where they use the data from the government, US Census, the states having how many registered people there are and how many ballots cast. And Edward Solomon, that's the last page we'll get to. And I want to bring this up because Michelle, the clerk, has had a couple presentations showing how valid and safe the machines are. And that's great. That's great to do. She's representing that. We all saw it. However, there's 62%, according to the Rasmussen poll, of people that think the 2020 election was stolen. So we should represent them too. We have some serious questions. Cast vote records, census, and Edward Solomon just being 3 of them, about how the data shows algorithms in the machine. So I just like to say, if we could have a demonstration by the clerks or whoever, Ty asked that be happen to possibly the commissioners. How come these cast vote records in the census and the Solomon, the data showing that there's algorithms in the computer, how come that's not true? But the main thing I want to talk about is like on page 2, talking about the Lindell Summit that starts tomorrow. And there's all these people going to be in it. And it is the most important issue that this county or any county in the United States can address. Rule of, for, and by the people. And if it's a selection by computers instead of a selection by we the people, then we need to correct that. So here's some of the people on the photo there. There's also representatives from 50 states, starting alphabetically, going all through the end of, from Alabama on to Wisconsin or whatever. And that happens tomorrow from about 12:30 to 6:30. Then on the second day is when, I think that's on, oh boy. The second day, the plan will be unveiled. And he's got this plan he came up with. About 18 people now know about it. And he say, the only way it won't work is if people don't watch it. Everyone should agree with this. So he's really speaking it up. I hope it's good. But even if it's not good, please explain how those algorithms, the data from the government is not accurately showing machine fraud. So going back to the first page, I'm just quickly as I can here. Sorry, that's okay. Set that there. This is how elections should look, just like a coin toss. They even out very quickly, straight line. This is one that shows no fraud in this county because it's going straight across the page. It equals out right where it ends up. This election is showing the Mesa pattern, where how did it get down to the bottom there? Using the data from the state. That would be a good thing for the county here to show us. How is this happening? This is showing a fraud in the, and here's the bar graph showing that. Oops, I had it upside down. If I did, I'm not sure, but this one shows the bar graph. The cheating is in the first part there, where Biden almost equals Trump in Mesa, Colorado. It's very conservative. Middle graph is what it should be. About 65, they've been 67% Republican for a long time. And the third graph is where the cheating was, 10% vote swing because of that. And just this last one here, he looked at 158 counties in 9 states, and 81% of them show this Mesa pattern. Can we explain this in our county? If it can happen there, why can't it happen here? And just the, I ran out of time, but look at that last page. He offers $80,000.
Thank you.
I thought this department could win the $80,000, just prove them wrong. Be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Markowski?
Good evening. We had other appointments this evening, couldn't hear, but item 11 is when we came in. We're trying to understand the policy change. And I'm not sure I understood it right, that on public comment, that public comment will be only allowed on items on the agenda at the Board of Commissioners meeting or at the executive meeting. I'm trying to understand which it was, what the policy, actually what the policy change is from what it is now. What has been limited or eliminated from public participation? So is the public going to be able to speak on any subject or no subject at all? At public comment? What was the policy change?
I will respond to that.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Markowski. The public comment at the executive board meeting, the first one will be limited to the items on the agenda. At the regular board meeting, any public comment is allowed. At the end of each meeting, anything's allowed.
Do we have a report for 3 to 5 years indicating how much harm and damage and waste has occurred by violations of that process to this point, which triggered this necessity for this change? Do we have a report on that? I'd like to see it. How much has been wasted? And if you don't have that report, I'm astounded that you would make a non-fact-based report on such an item. Unbelievable. So your process is actually trying to censor people, right? So that's an honorable thing to do for county commissioners, I suspect. It's kind of tragic, but it's hard to understand what's happening here. We're trying to find monsters among the people. We're trying to find enemies among the people so people cannot speak. And you have the limitations of time, so what's the difference? I want to, again, say that since this commission has come on, in one area, we have very poor leadership from the whole board. In this regards, the clerk loathing decision that was made by the prior board on May 11th, 2021. And so we again say that we witnessed a very unusual poor performance of public governance last night. I trust that our commissioner that represents us will telegraph that to the rest of you, how bad things can get at a public meeting. And they seem to be going nowhere at this time. And I believe honestly that we have the same problem at this commission regarding this clerk loathing matter. I believe that someone has to have the courage to hold this board accountable for what the actions of the prior board did and all the actions you have taken to promote this process of waste and harm. So we again respectfully request this Board of Commission take action immediately to prepare a report to taxpayers on the waste of taxpayers' money, well over $500,000 now, and harm and damage done and continuing in this people in this building by the clerk loathing decision. We must accept the truth. Again, I would say at this point that this board, even at this late hour, rescind that motion, item 11, and leave things the way they were. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCusker. Any other public comment? Any commissioner comment?
I will be brief. You need to get to the airport. I do have an EV. There was some information disseminated on EVs. For everybody who doesn't know, I plug my EV in at home every night. I've spent maybe $30 in a year at public charging stations. My electric bill might be up $20 or $30 a month. I can't really tell. Never paid for a I haven't paid for an oil change in a year, thankfully, and I drive past gas stations. I don't find it expensive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comment?
I'm gonna cast you in a commercial for EVs soon.
We are now down to approval of the financials. Commissioner Lautner?
Yes, so the two amendments, is there anything that, particularly, I see we have the vote. I did have a question on what the DTR, last one, the fund balance forward and the contingency transfer out general fund, and then the PRE.
So the PRE is to fund the position that we.
Primary residency exemption.
Yes, and so this is an annual event that we, in effect, fund from DTR. So we took the opportunity to have a single transfer from DTR to fund both the Great Lakes boat as well as the PRE audit position.
Oh, okay.
I have a question too.
Go ahead. I see the boat was the first one. We all
Yeah.
see that. Yes, okay.
The opioid settlement revenue, it's very nice to see that coming in. I thought there was a stay on that by a federal judge.
So this is only reflecting, from my standpoint, setting up the fund itself. So we've set up an opioid fund, which is 284, and those amounts, 93, I believe, is two amounts that we've been paid to date. So this is those 80-some thousand and 10,000 roughly that we were just looking to house, segregate, and move into there. So we set up a revenue and an expense related to the funds we've already received.
Well, I would move to approve amendment number 23-012.
Support. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0.
And no questions on the fund transfer. I would move to approve the fund transfer 23-005.
Support. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0.
I move to approve funds and accounts $1,019,925.69.
Support. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye. I think of a break too. That's a big one.
I was telling Sean, I don't recall any time in recent history.
I can't ever remember that high.
It
Go,
could,
Sean.
Bring it on.
it could be the $270-some thousand payment on the Motorola lease for the radios that the patrol people, because sometimes that could run through Friday post audit. We just put it on. So that's a good chunk of money right there.
Yeah, it was. I think. I move to approve post audit $2,175,235.99.
Support. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.